So, this is a little trigger warning for today's episode. We are talking about some tough issues, and I know a lot of people out there are feeling some heavy stuff. And that's why we did this episode. It wasn't planned. We needed to talk about it, but do take care of yourself. Know that we're going to talk about some tough issues. And as always, do whatever it is that you need to take care of you. Thanks for listening.
The world is a lot right now. Are you feeling it? We all need new tools to help us walk through the chaos with grace, ease, and compassion for each other and for ourselves. In this podcast, you'll hear from parents, educators, and other experts who can bring perspective to the monumental job of parenting. It's time to level up and be warriors for our kids and our communities. This is the Warrior Parent Podcast. I'm Marci Mitchell.
And I'm Debbie DiManno. As parents, we understand that it really does take a village to raise our kids. We hope that this podcast serves to create and support that community for you. Join us as we discuss and practice our core tools, which are proven mind-body techniques that can be used by anyone to improve your life on a daily basis.
Welcome back to the Warrior Parent Podcast. I am glad you joined us today. This is the episode that we didn't really want to do, to tell you the truth. We had an episode planned. As you know, we've been focusing on veterans and men's mental health this month for November, honoring men and veterans. And of course, there are plenty of women veterans as well. That was our topic for today. And then the U.S. election happened, and it kind of threw us. It kind of it put us it put us in a place where we knew we had to talk about it. Not just because Debbie and I were feeling so much grief and so many emotions, but because we saw so many other people, lots of women, but men too, that were thrown out of their center, thrown off their grounding. And that's what I felt like. I woke up that morning at 4:22 in the morning, having gone to bed early, sort of intentionally the night before, because I couldn't watch it. I really just couldn't watch it. And I just wanted to believe that things would sort themselves out. But waking up at 4:22, lifting my phone and seeing that definitive answer, that's where it just started. And I remember feeling so disoriented, like I wasn't sure what was going on. So reaching out almost immediately to my good friend Debbie and some of my other good friends who I knew were struggling, based on conversations we had, and then just navigating the next week. So we are recording this on Monday, so it's basically just about a week, just under a week later. And so stages of grief, all of that stuff we've been going through, but we wanted to talk about it. We wanted to talk about it because it's important. It's so relevant. So so that being said, I'm going to just kind of turn it over to Debbie, because I know she had, as everyone did, their own experience, that the day after, as I'm going to call it. And so yeah, tell us
That's
a
one.
little bit about how it went for you, Deb.
That's one way to explain it, right?
Mhm.
So first of all, this was going to land on Thursday, but it is Veterans Day, and I do want to honor my friend Marcy and thank her for her service. She is my all-time favorite veteran, and I'm super proud to call her my friend. So I do want to give a shout out to Marcy in this moment. But so back to the conversation about the election, and we're not here to talk politics. We're here to talk about how we were feeling. Marcy and I have similar ideas about these things, and that's not to say that one side or the other or whatever's going on is affecting people differently, but we want to show how we understand about rising up when things are going to take you down, right? So same is true for me. I was feeling overwhelmed, feeling sort of angry. I'm really very, what I would call very much a woman's woman, and for me this was personal around women, and I think especially because of my age group. What I've seen women go through in my lifetime being 60, including my mother and my grandmother and the things that they didn't have. So those are the things that scare me and worry me. So meanwhile, I get up in the morning and I see my message from Marci, and it says, don't forget to show your light, or don't forget that you are a light worker. And I thought about that for a minute, and I thought, yeah, you know what? Like, I am. That is why we do the podcast, because we do feel like we are light workers. Like we do that through this podcast. We use our voice. And for those of you who don't really understand or think this is woo woo or whatever, I just want to share. I actually did a little research on what a light worker is, and I don't think it's woo woo at all. So, defined, a light worker is someone who's spiritually aware, tasked with spreading light, love, and positive vibrations. Like, I don't know how bad that is. Some people are thinking this is a woo woo thing, but
Yeah.
but that is an intention of Marcy and I, to stay above the clouds, right? When things are hard or things are difficult, that trait in us, as natural helpers, being empathic and expecting nothing from anyone other than just to do some good things, to try and do good things in the world. That
Yeah.
allows us to stay out of the muck, to stay out of depression, to stay out of anger. Now, that doesn't mean we don't have those things and we don't have those feelings. We certainly do. And we feel them probably as much or more than anyone, because we work so hard to make things better. So this was a little bit of a setback for us, but it just means that we just need to show up and keep doing what we're doing. That's what I told my
Yeah.
kids. Like, how are you doing? Like, they're a little bit on the
Yeah.
other side of this. And I said, I'm just going to show up and do what I do every day, and nothing changes for me.
Yeah. And if being a light worker or showing the light or reminding people of the good is woo woo, then I'm all in. Like you can call me woo woo. I will
Yeah.
not take offense.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And this is part of what we're talking about today. This is we're going to call this episode the post-election check-in, because there are a lot of people who are feeling a lot of emotions after
Yes.
this decision. And you know, again, we aren't a political, we're not here to be political, and yet politics just means comes from the Latin word for people. We are here about people. We're here about what are your feelings, what are you going through, and we're here about a world that works for everyone. So this election felt like a very clear choice between moving towards a world that could work for everyone and uplift everyone, and old paradigms of patriarchy and empowering, more empowerment to the top, more money to the top, and deporting people, othering people, saying these people are your problem, whether it's the LGBTQIA plus community, or it's immigrants, or it's people whose skin color is darker than ours, or from certain shithole countries. And for those of you just listening, I'm doing air quotes because that's just a horrible thing to say.
Yeah.
So how are you responding to that? Where is that hitting? Some people, and I am the first one to admit that I am a privileged woman. I am a white woman. I am, come from a higher economic class. I live in California. I'm safe. I'm not, I'm even past an age when I would need to worry about whether I could, whether I would be forced to carry a pregnancy or not. And I am awake and aware. I am woke. I am happy to be woke and woo. So I am awake to what's going on. And so I care about other people. I care about marginalized communities. I care about communities that are probably feeling very frightened and challenged right now. So how are you feeling? Are you in one of these communities? Are you reaching out for help? There are other people going through this. You don't have to go through it alone. Are you wondering how you can help, how you can show up, use your voice, be a light worker, be a force for good on the planet? All
Yeah.
of this, and you get to feel these feelings. So we had Debbie and I both, and several of our friends, and millions of women and men across the planet had a really rough few days, and some are still very much in that very dark. I mean, I held an 86-year-old friend of mine as she cried the day after. just so disappointed, thinking that she finally got to vote for and possibly was going to elect the first woman president in 250 years, which we're half the population. So it doesn't seem unreasonable to think that we could do that. But so there's all kinds of things that people are going through, and you are entitled to your feelings. I had someone on Facebook, as I was sharing a story, kind of say, I don't understand what you're grieving. And then when I, in a thoughtful and intentional way, tried to explain it to them, they dismissed it and said, oh, that's just mainstream media talking points, which it surely was not. It was me using my head and my brain and my heart and trying to explain to her, because I thought she really wanted to know. That wasn't the case. So people get to feel their feelings. Don't try to say, oh, you're just being alarmist. We heard that before, and then we lost Roe v. Wade. We're not being alarmist. This is how democracies fall. And so people who are awake and aware are having all kinds of experiences. So you get to do that. You get to feel your feelings. You get to go through it. And then, like Deb said, we rise strong because this isn't over. Like you get to mourn, you get to grieve, and then we got to keep going for a
Yeah.
world that does work for everyone. And that's
Yeah.
really important, I think, really important. And I hope you feel empowered to do that.
Yeah. I think I think as a woman, I try to have these conversations with the men in my life, my children, with my husband. And
Mhm.
honestly, it is difficult if you are not walking in a woman's shoes. I am a woman who's been abused. I am a woman who has been raped. I am a woman who has had all these terrible things happen to her in my lifetime. I have seen it happen to my mother, and I've seen it happen to generations of women. So for me, this was really, really, really personal, really personal. And so, but I still imagine myself walking around in men's shoes. And they really, it is difficult for them to understand if they have never walked around like you and I and had the privilege of being a woman. This is a difficult time. And I always go back to our good friend Gary, speaking of Veterans Day, our favorite veteran, and
Yeah,
we talked about him last week, how
yeah.
he talked about the feminine rising. Again, this
Mhm.
is not about women in power. This is about
Right.
the femininity of men. This is about the femininity of the planet, and how if we can't rise into a place of a little bit more of this authenticity, femininity, we will implode, right?
Yeah,
And so this was one we were talking about, like some of the quotes, some of the things that were holding us up during this
yeah,
time. I think this is one of the things that you sent me, and this pertains to women. I discover the world is hungry for women to show up and tell the truth, unafraid and free, expanding to the very edges of who they were always meant to be. That's by Jen Hatmaker. I don't know who that
yeah,
is,
yeah,
but that like hit it for me, and it just it helps me to just to show up, to put my work boots on,
yes,
or
yeah,
my podcast on, or my whatever, my creative
right.
purpose
Whatever it is,
boots on. Yeah.
stiletto heels, flip flops,
Yes, however
whatever is
you
your
show.
thing. And that's part of this, is that we all get to show up in our own authentic way. So
Yeah.
let's stop telling people how they have to show up or what their gender is or what pronouns they have to use. Let's let people decide for themselves, because that's, why wouldn't you? Why would you in America, land of the free, try to say, no, you don't get to decide who you are? And then
Yeah.
secondly, going back to what you're saying about, walking the earth as a woman, walking the earth as a man, patriarchy is not walking the earth as a man. Patriarchy is an idea that men need to control everything, that men have to have their power over women, and that women need to be subservient to men. And that is the system that we have been living in for a very long time. And
Yeah.
yeah, there's been some progress, but
Yeah.
we're not there yet.
Yeah.
We still can't seem to elect a
Yeah.
woman to the highest office in America. And if you don't think misogyny is playing into that, I hate
Yeah.
to tell you that it is.
Yeah.
That's just the
So,
truth of it. There are plenty of people
and
who were just like, oh, a woman can't do that, in spite of seeing their mothers and their sisters and their wives and all the women in their lives carry the weight of the world. We can do it. We can
yeah,
do it. We do it already,
yeah,
but we just don't get to be in those positions of power where, like, if you look around and say, I don't like the world, maybe it's time to try something different because we have
yeah,
not empowered women. We've not allowed women to be in the leadership for the
yeah,
most part in America.
yeah,
They're doing it better in a lot of other countries.
yeah. We're getting there, but we're slow to do it. And by the way, I want to let everyone know that next week, Marcy and I are doing an entire piece on patriarchy, around men and men's evolution. We've done some surveys, and so I just want to let everybody
Yeah.
know, like that's gonna be a big topic
Yeah.
for
That
our
was the one we
discussion
were
next
going to
week.
do today, but we realized we needed to talk about, I
Yes.
mean, I don't know. Debbie's husband talks about the elephant in the room. This elephant is like sitting on our entire country, is what it feels
Yeah.
like. That's a that's a metaphor that feels
Yeah.
way too
Yeah.
real.
Yeah.
The other thing about that divine feminine energy, it it's not this either or. It's we're out of balance. This patriarchy, this patriarchal energy is way out of balance. Just like money and wealth in America has gotten more and more out of balance. And we hear
Yes.
the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. But if you saw what it's like to have hundreds of billions of dollars, like if you could find, there's some representations out there of what that looks like. It is so much money for an individual to have. It's ridiculous, but even more so when there are so many people at the bottom struggling to get by. So we are out of balance, and that is part of patriarchy too. That idea that well, the whole capitalism is part of patriarchy. So there are ways to place something at the center of our values other than money, other than power, like connection and a world that serves everyone, a world where nobody's starving, where the children all have a chance for a great education,
Yeah.
and where women are safe and children are safe, and men are safe too. Everybody, we all deserve to be safe. We all
Right.
deserve food in our stomachs. We all deserve a safe place to rest our head at night. If we could make some of these our values and put away some of the others, that will start to shift the world in a way that's going to make it better for everyone. And that's
Yes.
where the divine feminine is stepping in.
Yes.
And as we've said before, patriarchy and all these old ways and these old paradigms, they do not want to die. So their claws are in and they're scratching and they're making a big fuss. And so that's part of what we're seeing now. And I
Yeah.
truly hoped we were going to get to a new and better way without it being so hard first, but I
It's
don't think
yeah.
that's what we get to do,
It's
unfortunately.
showing up to be healed in a very, very big way, right?
Mm,
And we know this. We've talked about this a bunch in other podcasts, right? Like it's like this sore, right? This underlying sore, and it just festers and it festers and it festers until there's an explosion. For me and my health, it's been, this underlying thing that I couldn't deal with until it nearly killed me, right? And so
mm,
so we I was having a bunch of conversations with a bunch of people just about relationships. There's a lot of I don't know if we're in retrograde of some sort, but there's a lot going on with people in relationships. The
yeah.
the the election, there's a lot of stirring up of negativity. And for me, that just feels like it's showing up, it just keeps showing up to be healed, because it wasn't,
Yes.
apparently we weren't ready to do that
Yeah.
just yet.
That is true. Yeah. You
Right.
you you can't. I had a minister who would say that growth is gradual, cumulative, and sequential. And I bring this up. So
Yeah.
it's gradual, it's a little bit at a time. It's cumulative, it's building, it's building, it's building, and it's sequential. Like you can't learn this until you learn this. So you can't just jump up. You got to build
Right.
the foundation. So that's what we have been doing. We're chopping wood, we're carrying water, we're building the foundation for a world that could work for everyone. And
Yes.
and collectively, how do we get there? And so some of us are just trying to show up and hold that space,
Yeah. Yeah.
do what we can. And
So yeah, and so speaking of doing what we can, so Marcy and I, we decided to walk the walk and talk the talk this week. And so Marcy's always good about, inviting me, like, let's go do this, let's go do that. And so
yeah,
we decided we needed to get out in nature. And we took
yeah,
the entire day
yeah,
and got out there and did some serious grounding. And it was the perfect
yeah,
day. It was exactly what we needed. And sometimes we need to remind ourselves, even though we use some of these tools every day, that when it's tough, you got to push even harder to do
yeah,
them, right? And to take care of yourself.
yeah,
And especially women right now. I know a lot of women are going through some difficult times, and I just
yeah,
continue to tell them or ask them, what are you doing to take care of yourself? Well,
yeah,
it's too crazy right now. What can I do? I'm like, oh my God, okay, wait, stop. Like, this is the most important thing you're going to do
it's
right now,
true.
is to
Yeah,
take care of yourself. Or the cancer will get you, the whatever is going to get you, right? But
right.
please, 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 please take care of yourself. And so
Yeah.
Marcia
And
and I went on
sometimes,
this amazing hike. I'll let you finish the story.
well, sometimes like we are blessed because we live in the foothills of the Sierra and it's
Yeah.
beautiful and we can go on a hike and be somewhere beautiful very, very quickly. But sometimes all you can do is just slow down and take 3 deep breaths and just give yourself that. Go outside. And if you don't have a great yard, if you have a nice yard, get your feet in the grass, get your feet in the ground, put your hands down, pick up some rocks. I was picking up rocks, like hold a rock and feel Mother Earth's energy, looking up, look at, tapping, do some bilateral tapping, check out some of our videos about ways to calm your nervous system. Do what you can with what you've got. But again, if nothing else, and I still do this, and I was just saying to my husband and my son, I'm back into another 4 years where I'm going to be sighing. I just know it because I remember last time it was a lot of like, this is what I do. I'm like, and in that deep breath is, it's going to be okay. So
Yeah.
do whatever it takes. But going
Yeah.
back to the story, what we had decided to do was we were going to do this hike in an area called Bassy Falls that is about an hour from our house and on the way up to Lake Tahoe. We're driving up there and you're on the highway for half the way and then you're off on this windy tiny road. There's nothing but logging trucks, and Deb and I driving up like, we got to get our feet in the ground, we got to get some nature. Two things kind of went wrong. One was there was a prescribed burn nearby, so we stopped to check watch duty because we live in fire country and make sure we weren't putting ourselves in danger. Well, it was a prescribed burn. It was close enough though, the air was not great, and Debbie is really sensitive to that. But so you're hoping for this deep clean air and you're getting kind of
Smoke.
choky.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the higher we were going, the worse it was
That's
getting.
what
And
I'm
the other
getting.
thing was me, and I looked at my tank. I was at close to a half. But by the time we got halfway up the hill, I was at a quarter. And I was like, oh, we're driving up this desolate area. And if it's going to take me, if we still have 25 minutes to go and I'm on a quarter tank and then we got to come back and it was uphill. Anyhow, I said, you know what? I don't think we should do that. I think we should go back and go somewhere lower. The air will be better and we won't worry about running out of gas. But in the meantime, we pulled over just at a viewpoint because that's a place where people go where you get big sky. Like you're up high and you can look out, and at night people go and see the stars there. So we pulled off, we got out. I took a couple pictures with my phone. We both, we marveled at the beauty of it, and they were like, okay, we'll head back. Got back in the car, headed down, went to another beautiful area if you're local here called Bridal Falls Park, and had a beautiful walk. There was trees turning everywhere. There was the river, the American River was just flowing, and we spent some time there just getting centered and feeling better and leaving a little message of hope in the sand of
Mhm.
that beach for anyone else who would see it, saying we are going to be okay. Had a great time, went to lunch in Placerville. And it wasn't until the next day that I realized I didn't have my wallet, and I knew I had it with me on the trip, but I didn't know where it was. And so I spent the next few days trying to find my wallet, checking my cards. Was anyone using them? No, everything's good. My husband, my son were checking everywhere, going through the car, going to my spiritual center, all the places I thought, called the restaurant where Debbie and I had lunch, all of that. It's not turning up. And I was just yesterday getting to the point where I'm like, well, I guess I got to do the thing. I got to cancel all my credit cards. I got to cancel my driver's license. Never mind. I don't ever carry cash. I don't know, I probably had $160 in there because I had just had an event where I had some money in my purse. And so, which, that was the least of the worries at that point because it was all that bother. But,
Yeah.
yesterday was a beautiful day and I decided to have a fire again, which I like. We have a big fire pit in the yard and I like to sit out there with a fire. It's very soothing to me. It's one of my self-care things. So I'm doing the fire. I'm sitting out there and having a glass of wine and just trying to know that everything's going to be fine. And my son comes out and says, there's two ladies at the door looking for Marci Lee Mitchell. And so I'm like, okay, well, that's interesting. But I'm like, okay. I go out to the front door and sure enough, these two women have my wallet. And I was just ecstatic. I was like, oh my God, you saved me. And where did you find it? The crazy thing is they found it halfway up that mountain on that very remote road where we stopped to take a picture because they
Yeah.
were escaping. And they didn't tell me this specifically, but I think they were going to get nature. They come from Sonoma area. If you're listening, God bless you. Thank you so much. I gave them big hugs. I was so grateful. I wanted to just say, come sit by the fire with me, but I didn't because I didn't want to be weird. But in retrospect, I should just ask them because they might have enjoyed that. But they found it. They drove down on their way back home. They came out of their way to my house to give me back my wallet, of course, with all the money and all my credit cards. And just that was such a message to me from the universe that the universe, God, spirit, the divine, whatever word you want to use, has got my back. And I need to stop getting into the details and worrying about all the stuff that can happen and show up, as Deb said, as a light worker, show up for the good. These women showed up for good for me. And I am just going to keep turning around and doing that for
Yeah.
you, for anyone who needs it.
Yeah.
Everyone I see and having the conversations and
Yeah.
holding the light, knowing that something bigger is still unfolding. This ain't it. And
Yeah.
so breathe, sigh if you need to, and know that we are going to be okay. We truly are going to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. It just gives you faith in humanity, right? As much as
Yeah.
you want to think the world is against you, no one's paying attention, no one's listening, no one's seeing you. I think that's just not true. As long as you keep showing up, there is so much fear and disharmony and disconnection, and those are the things that we are not. But I feel like the only way that we are going to heal this is to just bring more light into the world. We're just going to make it so fucking bright
Yes, we are.
that you
Turn on the brights.
that you cannot see any fucking darkness. I
No.
think that's what we're doing.
Yes. And so Deb shared something that I had shared with her. That was one way that I got through the next day was sharing things that other people were sharing, which was them shining the light for me. So there's a couple things I do want to do before we wrap up. I want to share hotlines. Again, suicide and crisis hotline 988. You can text or you can call. That's for everybody. We also have the Trevor Project that gives the hotline specifically for LGBTQIA plus people and youth, and that is 1-866-488-7386. You can visit thetrevorproject.org for more support. And I kind of like to close with this one that I read that morning and shared because it felt powerful to me. So it is from the words of, these are the words from Zoe Weil, Weil. Now what? I asked myself at dawn this morning. First, feel your racing heart, your incomprehension, your sorrow and anxiety, your harsh and brittle judgments. Second, walk outside and watch the sunrise. Hear the loon's mournful cry. Lift your head to the eagle flying above you. Third, work harder. Work harder at understanding, at not allowing bitterness and anger to eclipse curiosity and love, at not succumbing to the use of the word them, even in your most private thoughts. There's so much to do, so many systems to change. Don't let these phrases, these calls to action that sound so arduous, deter you. What other way is there to build a future where the dominant pronoun is we the people, we the inhabitants of Earth, we the parts of ecosystems where all sentient life arose? Remember, we don't know how this story ends. We do know we have a part to play in its unfolding. Strive to play a part worthy of your life. And that was shared with me by a friend, my friend Judy McCollum, but I just think it's beautiful. So we'll
Wow.
share that in the notes. But
Yeah,
remember,
that's
you do have a part to play. Let it be worthy of your life.
beautiful. Thank you,
Yeah.
Marci.
Thank you all. We will see you next week.
And now for your core mental health break. This is your opportunity to take a moment to support your mental wellness, your peace of mind, your own ease and grace. Take some time every day to support your mental health. You deserve it, and it matters.
So today we will do an affirmation. So I encourage you to speak this aloud. I am worthy. I am worthy. I am worthy. Let that be your affirmation for today.
Thanks for listening to the Warrior Parent Podcast, which is a production of our nonprofit, Cour Experience, who also creates and distributes Cour tools. You can find us at courexperience.org. Make sure you join us next week for another informative conversation to help you and your family show up mindfully, purposefully, and joyfully with each other and in your community.
Our Cour Tools platform consists of a number of proven tools and techniques that are designed to reduce stress, anxiety, and overwhelm in spite of what's going on in your world. We want to thank Samuel Hale, LLC, for sponsoring this podcast. Technical and marketing support comes from Inspire Your Brand. Our podcast editor is Justin Beeden. Opinions expressed by guests do not necessarily reflect those of the hosts, the producers, or the financial supporters. I'm Debbie DiManno.
And I'm Marci Mitchell. Thanks for listening. If you resonate with the idea of creating a community to help support kids and families, won't you join us by following the podcast and sharing this episode? You can even write a review. It truly does take a village, and we appreciate you.